An international coalition has mobilized to back Ukraine. A number of countries are imposing sanctions, they're closing their airspace to Russian planes, and sending weapons and humanitarian aid. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is asking the West and NATO to do more, to impose a no-fly zone, which would restrict aircraft from flying over Ukraine. Enforcing it would mean shooting down Russian planes that violate the no-fly zone. The West has said that would amount to a declaration of war and is a non-starter.
On Wednesday, I sat down with Ukrainian journalist and activist Daria Kaleniuk. She's the co-founder and executive director of the Anti-Corruption Action Center. It's a Ukrainian advocacy organization that promotes transparent democracy. And you might have seen a clip of her that went viral earlier this week, where she got emotional when pleading with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson to do more.
I see that my family members, that my team members are saying that we are crying. We don't have where to run. This is what is happening, Prime Minister.
In that exchange, she echoed Zelensky's call for a no-fly zone. Here's what she told me in our conversation.
I'm in Poland, where the air defense systems of NATO are being placed, and they can provide the protection of our sky in Ukraine. They can hit Russian missiles. They are saying, well, we don't want to hit Russian troops, we don't want to hit Russian planes, but these missiles are over the territory of Ukraine, the sovereign nation, and the sovereign nation is begging help with hitting these missiles. That was what I'm begging for. And I'm begging for this protection of our skies to evacuate at least children. You know, when we are talking, I have text messages from my friend who is now in Irpin, nearby Kiev, in car with 3 newborn babies, trying to evacuate these 3 newborn babies from Kiev. And it's just one of many, many examples what's actually happening on the ground and what kind of suffering and miserable situation created for Ukrainians on the ground because of all these missiles. So it is inhuman. It is non-Christian. It's against any humanity. And we are begging the West to protect our sky, to be able to evacuate these children. Is it too much we are asking for?
The pushback from the West has been that declaring a no-fly zone over Ukraine would essentially amount to a declaration of war. Now, that move could trigger a nuclear response from Russia. What do you say to that when we talk about the risk of a nuclear event?
I'm saying that the risk of nuclear event can happen any moment now when Russians are shooting their missiles. The most heavy fightings which are happening now in Ukraine are in Energodar, Zaporizhia region, which is near one of the largest nuclear power plants in Ukraine. And any second missile can hit that nuclear power plant. So it is immediate risk for NATO now and for the entire world. If NATO will not protect Ukrainian sky, the most devastating consequences can happen. The West is saying, well, we can't, we are afraid of World War III. But I want to say that the World III has already started, just not everybody realized that yet.
What does the world look like if Putin wins?
It is the end of democracy. It's a different world. Forget about rule of law. It ceased to exist at the moment when Russia started bombarding Ukraine. There will be no way to return democracy as an idea if Ukraine will fail.
You can hear my full conversation with Daria on this week's episode of Apple News' In Conversation.
On tomorrow's Apple News Today, you'll hear some of my conversation with Vox reporter Zach Beecham. We spoke about why, at this point, the West is so adamantly opposed to a no-fly zone.
So people often misunderstand what a no-fly zone is, right? Like one analyst that I've seen pointed it out to people describing it as like a magical umbrella that prevents planes from flying there. That's not how it works. It is intervening in the conflict on Ukraine's side, basically declaring war on Russia. That carries all sorts of different risks of nuclear escalation. And nuclear weapons have the potential to annihilate the planet.
That's tomorrow on Apple News Today.